Hello, I'm Duskbyte, and welcome to Talking Cool, our hopefully weekly essay series analyzing the episodic adventure game and visual novel, Cool Kid Cody, developed by 90% Studios. We aim to make an episode for each episode of Cody that releases. This episode released later than we intended, as we hope to drop each analysis for the previous episode a week after it releases, so every Friday when the new one drops. Hopefully, the others won't be this goddamn long. My headmates and I are big fans of 90% Studios' games and the stories they tell. Enough that we supported Cool Kid Cody's development through Patreon, and enough that our most watched video after more than a year is still our one covering their series of games, Perfect Apocalypse. That seems to be, as yet, their magnum opus. Our content seems to be intertwined with theirs, as the themes and imagery not only let us develop a word we use to describe a certain media aesthetic and feel that defines our taste and our own content, horror adorable, but also we felt incredibly seen through all of their work that we've experienced so far. It's helped us process a lot in this cruel and often dark world. Although we'd be overjoyed if you watched and shared our videos, including the VODs of our streams playing Cool Kid Cody, that's over on our other channel, we also encourage playing these games for yourself. Episodes of Cool Kid Cody are $2 each, and the first one was free. Support queer and indie artists, not just us. And with that introduction, I'll hand you off to Drizzle. Enjoy, or suffer cathartically. Since the founding of Hellas City ages ago, there have only been losers, cool kids, and gods. Losers, society's creepy, unhygienic, and socially awkward doormat. To be one is to have a fate worse than death. Cool kids. They're the laid-back, fashionable, and charismatic bunch favored by the gods. Losers either hate them or wish they were them. And gods, with wings made of colors and chill powdered magic, they're the coolest of all. They rule over all. Everyone is condemned to their fates. Everyone is condemned to their fates, but there is one way to ascend. Achieve the impossible, or lose your cool trying. In the age we live in, being seen is everything. Keep your social media presence clean enough for employers, checking in with friends and family that live far away, being well versed in the current discourse of the communities you care about, knowing what's happening in the current news cycle, or avoiding it at all costs. It's everywhere. But what many want and very few achieve is to ascend, to become bigger than they were before. Money, fame, power beyond one's wildest dreams. The internet allows such things in much greater frequency. Going viral is never guaranteed, and even then doesn't confirm consistency. Many a viral video exists on a channel where most videos don't even make a tenth of the views of that one hit. That one moment of self-aggrandizing glory. But this is likely nothing new to you. If you care about fame, either through paying attention to those that have it, or those that chase it, or you want it yourself, you likely know that content creators on the internet are the new prestige, and it takes a lot to achieve and even more to maintain. It's not enough to get paid, but it's about being seen. Your favorite creator is likely not even one at the top of their field, but you probably think the world of them, or at least their content. Cool Kid Cody is an episodic visual novel set in a world not unlike our own, in the sense that your reputation and what others think of you is a very big deal. At first glance, it may seem like a world you might want to be a part of. After all, it's a world full of color and expression. But I assure you, cults are all about optics and seduction. The world exists within a caste system. Imagine if the whole world was like high school. There are only 3 classes. Well, technically 4. But we'll revisit that another time. Losers stand at the bottom, cool kids in the middle, and gods at the top. Gods are literally magical winged living objects that live in Chill Haven, away from everyone else. As of episode 1, it's not fully clear why said objects take what form they do, but it seems likely it's something they valued when they were themselves a cool kid. Kinda like cutie marks? We only see 3 gods in episode 1, and only one seems to be having very much fun, at the expense of others. Because of the fantastical existence of the gods, it seems like a lighthearted urban fantasy. At home as like an early teens graphic novel. But if you know the track record of the creators, I wouldn't hold my breath on the story staying light. The existence of a caste system seems to scream class consciousness critique, and something like that can easily be handled with kid gloves. It reeks of a rainbow-colored infused version of the meritocracy we find ourselves in our current world. Being a god is kinda like being rich. Or an e-celeb. Attainable, but only by a sliver of the population. But it's the ghost of a chance that keeps the lower classes motivated. And unwilling to revolt. You can kinda predict what a good faith message of this game could be. Don't worry too much about ascending the social ladder, it's not all it's cracked up to be. Cool kids don't need to be anything but themselves. The ones who are truly cool don't even care. And that's not really a bad message, right? Even for an adult. Especially if you take the gods as a metaphor for fame. Although, if you take it as a metaphor for being financially as well as socially prosperous, an adult eye may just start shedding tears. Cool Kid Cody follows the titular Cody as he tries to ascend to godhood. He has high ambition for sure. We don't see any losers in this episode, but you can tell from his first lines that he's quite strongly desiring to ascend the ladder. And the prospect of descending sounds like a nightmare. Ah! My pants! Where are my pants? Oh, it was just a dream. Whew, makes sense there's no way I'd be caught pants down in front of the whole class. Underwear in the middle of a class dream is almost laughably cliche, but I think it illustrates the hyperbolic logic of the world that we find ourselves in the game. The intro says, everyone is condemned to their fates, but there is one way to ascend. Achieve the impossible, or lose your cool trying. So it's reasonable to say that going from a cool kid to a loser would feel like losing money, losing your station, descending into poverty, not simply just having an embarrassing day. And of course, embarrassment is the key concern for Cody. From the journal he mentions in his junk drawer to the way his parent makes him feel, it feels like he has to be pretty defensive. Once we have control of Cody, we can look around the room and understand more about him. He likes rock music, skateboarding, and colorful toys. We can see various nostalgic objects around his room from the various eras of kiddom. Furbies, Optimus Prime, Raphael from the Ninja Turtles, a long colorful caterpillar, and much, much more. It's like the 80s and 90s raised him. And another thing, his room isn't even messy. It's elegantly disheveled. It only appears messy at first glance because of all the colors everywhere, but I think it's rather admirable. Do cool kids clean their room? No, because cool kids have OCD. This is definitely a room dead parents could be proud of. If his parents are dead. We meet a living alarm clock designed to help him prepare for the coolness test, otherwise known as the GRD. Today is GRD. What? Today? No way! How could I forget? If I recall correctly, and always recall correctly, you stayed up until 2:26 a.m. due to the GRD-related anxieties and have since initiated trauma repression software. Oh, right. Totally forgot. Repress that. Whatevs. If I leave now, I can still get to school on time to ace GRD. Can coolness be tested? Well, the American school system will sure find a way. Even just these few details seem to say a lot about Cody's place in the world. No loser will possibly put this much effort into looking so fresh. But it makes me wonder, was he always like this? I have to say, even this early, that it's quite possible he's overcompensating. Cody lobs a toy basketball at the hoop and launches off the rim and hits his desk, almost knocking everything off it. I'm more of a wheeled sports kind of guy. Every time I take in this moment, I feel my heart stir, because Cody having a basketball hoop but not seeming to have a passion for it screams obligation. In our society, given how it's expected that as a black person, especially a black boy, you excel in sports, basketball chiefly among them, it's not a stretch. And so even though it's a simple toy hoop any kid could have, I read Cody's comment a little more closely than someone else might. Even alone, being a black boy bad at basketball can be embarrassing. And around others, humiliating. Cody goes for wheeled sports, which we can tell without him even saying so, given the boards mounted on his ceiling. Although he's dressed like a 90s drink mascot, for him to reflect nostalgia of the 80s and 90s, I can't help but reflect on our own past, and how our interest in skating as opposed to balls and a want for a colorful wardrobe and room, and a love of toys ourselves, met annoyance at best and ire at worst from our family and older black folks alike. It embarrassed them. Self-expression this flamboyant begged to be hammered down like the neon-colored nail that it was. Either from homophobia, or even more often, accusations of trying to be white. Not to mention a side of ableism. Accusations that even got echoed from peers as an Oreo label stuck with us early on. Things like toys and skateboards and hair dye were relegated to white people things. And I think there was a knock-on effect that when you're a person of color, your elders are more focused on your survival than your happiness. And the lack of representation in media in settings like these did not help. Being told not to do things that were at the same time not being reflected on you in the media that you enjoyed was a great way to feel like you didn't have a place in the world as you were. I heavily relate to Cody and his expression of self. I mean, just look at my colors. Growing up as a black kid was very stressful. The pressure to be cool was enormous, both amongst black peers and everyone else. There was a lot of pressure to be cool and not let anyone see you sweat. And we were a loser through middle school and high school, if we were to prescribe ourselves to this world's standards. But in college, I think we attained a cool kid spark of self-expression. And only because we got to breathe. And quite frankly, dress and pursue more things like Cody does without fear or much judgment. Hell, his chosen skateboard is a family heirloom. His interests seem partially inherited. I hope we'll learn more about that soon. This game was not made by black people. I don't know why they chose to make their protagonist black, but I'm very glad Denny and Andy did. When we first found out about it, we didn't know too much about it and didn't think too hard. But when I first wrote this essay, I was vibrating with the intensity of feeling seen, even if there wasn't any deep thoughts to this choice in the first place, or how it might affect the setting, or the reading of it. But then again, I kinda had doublethink immediately after going downstairs because Cody's relationship with Gma activated my trauma with my own parents. Hey Cookie. Gma plants a big wet grandma kiss on Cody's cheek. Oh, thanks Gma. I kinda needed that. I really appreciate him being raised by a Gma instead of having only one principal parent, if he was gonna have one parent at all. As a single parent household for a black kid stings, but it does so a lot less when the parent is neither your mom or dad. I have to say thanks for making his father and mother not be around, instead of just one. So why the trauma? Well, Oh, thanks, G-Ma. I kinda needed that. I'm sort of worried about... Cody, what I say about genuinely accepting affection? At least inject a little sarcasm. It'd make you much cooler. She feels like a typically critically pushy black parent. It's uncanny how this looks like the person who was supposed to be our mother. It's the closest facsimile we've seen of that person in 8 or 9 years? This hit really close to home is what I'm saying. Asian parents have a reputation for pushing their kids too hard, but I think it's a common experience for folks of color in general. For my black experience, and the experience of many others I've known, there was the expectation to not draw sympathy, to not show any weakness, or to reflect stereotypes, to achieve highly, or else risk not simply disappointment from parents or your community, but being in what their eyes reflects falling into the worst negative realities that our communities can face. It was a lot to survive. And by the measures I was expected to live up to, my current life is actually a failure. But I try not to think of it that way nowadays, even if it is hard to shake. This game, however, only approaches the subject matter with a light hand. Most people are only gonna give it a passing glance, but for me, it hurt. You know what day it is, right? Yeah, and you know what that means, right? Be cool. Keep your shirt pressed, hair coiffed, and no try-harding. No eyeballing, no party pooping, no case rattling. Make eye contact, don't consort with losers, and most importantly, be yourself. A god in the making. Right. And cut it with the stuttering. Shit, the militantness of having to press even blue jeans as a kid has me suffering from anxiety attacks at the slightest aroma of starch. But just like I was taught, gotta keep it moving. Ain't nobody got time for that. And this isn't to say G-Ma doesn't love Cody, but black parents are awfully pushy, and they push awfully hard. Because the world doesn't pull punches or take excuses, especially when you're a minority. But in Cody's world, style and confidence and scholastic achievement are one and the same. G-Ma looks cool. Based on the era she reflects, she'd probably be at the top of her game. She's definitely not a loser. And if Cody becomes a god, she won't have to worry about him anymore. Right? And it's not like she isn't doing her own thing. She's not a sit at home and knit kind of gal. She's a fuck in the backseat kind of gal. Mr. Wilson might be down for some backseat bingo, if you know what I mean. You'll kill it, Cody. G-Mama's rooting for you. Thanks, G-Ma. G-Ma heads downstairs to the garage. What the heck is backseat bingo? Which, much like a cartoon, is very on-point adult humor that's sure to go over the heads of the more impressionable members of the audience. But I grew up with this kind of person, so I'm scarred for life now. G-Ma gives me trauma. Cody's living room is neat. The attention to detail put into the environments is pretty sweet. But before he jets out the door, I just want to put attention on this one thing. The knives! The player attempts to attain knives. Knives? That ain't that kind of game. So yeah, there's 90% studios telling us Cody isn't Patches, and we shouldn't expect the same things from this game as Perfect Apocalypse. Aw, I can't go on a killing spree! Given the color of our protag, I'm actually relieved. Going outside, it feels like Cody lives next to the Powerpuff Girls given the architecture. There actually isn't much to see on this screen other than the PlayStation-like house across the street, where one of Cody's friends lives, Gigi, which I thought was a reference to Jet Set Radio, but ends up standing for something completely different. But I won't ruin the surprise. And it's here that a mechanic is revealed. Taking pictures. It's Gigi's house. Are you winning, son? Cody takes a selfie and sends it to her. She does not reply. Classic Gigi. Every planned release of the game includes missable picture prompts, where Cody snips a pic, typically a selfie, and sends it to a friend. In this case, Gigi herself, who promptly ignores him. And if you get them all, you get an achievement. Upon going between this screen and trying to get to school, I got a little stuck not realizing how to travel, as it only happens when you click on the arrows, not on objects. Easy mistake on my part. But on the way to school, we get a lot of background info to ingest, even if we can't go everywhere. We can't go downtown or back home, for example, as Cody doesn't want to be late for the test. And, by the same measure, we don't get to go to the skate park either, even though Cody's heart aches for the half pipe. Here, we learn Cody goes to Crescent High, a school in Tight Heights, a neighborhood in Hella City. We're reminded by Cody that if he ascends to godhood, he'll have to relocate to Chill Haven and leave Hella City behind, which he actually seems to love, giving us the feeling that he wouldn't have a choice. But that again draws attention to Jima. There are cool adults, and she's the only one we'll see in this episode. Most people never become gods, but Cody is dead set on ascending. Rolling through Tight Heights, Cody points out the irony of Tight Heights being really high and closely packed together. Holy heck, the building in Tight Heights sure are tight. And they've got a lot of heights. Oh, I get why they named that now. Don't you love the inner city? You can take pictures of your friends' places, which, yeah, get that achievement, but also unlocks more content. GG not responding being a total GG move seems to be true, and not just Cody's attempt to shake off disappointment. Cause her response is juxtaposed to how Cody's friend Holden responds so quickly to being sent a picture. We very quickly see that these pictures are an additional measure of characterization. Holden chews Cody out for being too fashionably late, telling us he's way more concerned with punctuality than Cody could ever dream of being. But Cody deflects the shade rather masterfully. You're always fashionable, and you're already late. What in hell are you doing? Cody replies, doing your dad. There's no reply. These pictures also illustrate his relationships with his friends, as before he even gets a snippet pic of Juvie's apartment, he gets a message from her. She's on his wavelength. She's as much of a clown as Cody, giving her pic as of her teasing Cody with the idea that she's gonna marry a god. Which, as far as Cody's skating, seems more annoying than anything. Other than these details, Cody's reference to a cafe he might go to if he's really sad caught my attention, and I think we'll see the inside of it in a future episode. Cross your fingers. And with that, skating on. The ride to school is hella smooth. Even though I want to be much gamer and poke at everything, Cody seems dead set on not missing this test, which is a great way to show off the town and tease various locations. And we do still get some flavor as he comments on different things about all of them. As a likely cool kid hangout in the form of a pizzeria teases me, we go into school. I wonder if Cody likes pineapple. Inside the school, we get some more context to how society is divided up, considering the losers have to share a floor with the nurse and the principal. It's the nurse's office. Never been in there, but I hear it's more of a loser-oriented place. And the cool kids have the entire second floor to themselves? It's the guy's office. Most of the time it's just a puppet in there. Guys are way too busy living it up in Chill Haven to be down here doing office work. Crescent High's got a new guy this year. I've never met her, but I guess that changes today. I know it says God, but I mean, the god of a school is the principal, right? It's actually very kid logic to think that way. This whole society seems like a very childish invention. The fact that losers aren't seen this episode is framed within the context of the school being segregated, and that feels very purposeful. These class dynamics are strong, and you can tell a lot about a society by its architecture. The structure of the school means that losers literally look up to cool kids, just like the cool kids are pressured to want to ascend to godhood. It weirdly reminds me of the school we went to as a kid. It was a combined middle school and high school, with high schoolers on the second floor and middle schoolers on the bottom floor. Meaning, if you're a middle schooler, you tend to dream about what the high schoolers are doing above you. And not only that, but the students above you can look down at the students below them. Literally! Hell, they can even throw pennies at you without descending to your level. Sorry, didn't mean to trauma leak again. The walls on the second floor show the tiny glass pictures of previous classes, which directly juxtapose with the 6 literal figureheads adorned along the staircase, which really illustrate how society sees even cool kids when compared to gods. Also take note, losers don't get pictures it seems. The statues are of course the 6 folks who passed the GRD and previously ascended. Only 6? Heck, not many ascend at all. No surprise there. And these memorials seem to take the place of what would in most schools be a typical trophy case. It seems the school is made for assigning and training for the social roles that students will have once they leave. Although if they attain godhood, well, no need to stay in school anymore, right? Talk about being too cool for school. Oh my dog, it's just like real life! You can inspect the previous god statues, which I highly encourage because it gives you a look into what a god's life will be like, even if it's only in anecdotal form. Gods aren't just cool, but also are expected to go beyond, achieve the impossible. Basketball, for example, runs the world's NBA, and is a player. Or rather, he's the equipment, the ball the others play with. I can't imagine that being fun. Burger Queen was assigned her franchise domain, as all gods are assigned domains. Meaning, the gods still answer to someone. She's given her success. Makes me wonder if she's happy. Baphomet seems like they could be a Perfect Apocalypse 3 reference, but it's unclear what their role in the world is. Some gods are cloaked in mystery, it seems. Though there is another that Cody doesn't know too much about, not even what his name actually is, though he is referenced as sowing chaos downtown with an army of snakes. I wonder if that was a role that he was assigned. A little bit of chaos to keep everyone on their toes. I wonder if we'll see those snakes in another episode. I mean, we weren't allowed to go downtown after all. And then there's David, a really concerning god. Maybe the most worrisome description yet, as he's known as a model with an inability to feel or show emotion. That can't be a worthwhile existence, right? Does being a god traumatize you? Or does maybe the very nature of ascending change you to better serve your role? It's hard to tell. The last god depicted is called Gucci God. Obviously a reference to the brand name clothing line Gucci. It's another god that Cody only knows about the exploits of and not much else. The sum of all these stories seems to say that not much is known about the gods other than their most opulent accomplishments. Although Cody is a kid and wouldn't be too invested in the goings-on of society at large, and probably is ignorant to a lot of them, given his special interest seems to be skating and becoming god, I think his takes are probably more informed than most of his peers at least. Though his lack of critical eye about wanting to be a god and what it's gonna be like is concerning to say the least. The hallways have a lot of minor details, but I won't go over every single one of them. Though I do want to mention that the setting and culture uses things that in our own world seem silly or lame to a much stronger effect. The Be Cool, Stay in School banner is a perfect example of this. This world is saturated in a cool, focused culture, and I don't think we should forget that when we meet more characters, as Cody is our point of view character and lets us know that he cares a lot about not just maintaining his coolness, but also ascending to godhood. I wonder how other characters feel about it. Oh look, there's actually a trophy case. And with it, one of the single most important lines of the episode in my opinion. Like Gma always says, the trick to being a cool kid is putting in as much effort as possible and looking like you're putting in as little effort as possible. And that's what I'll say if anyone ever asks me if I've achieved anything. This is the lie of cool. The lie of fame. And of art to some degree. Obfuscating the effort it takes to do or look good comes off as doing it by second nature. Is how we're expected to act, or at least how others project it to be. Whether it be making video essays, being a cool skateboarder, or making awesome video games. Our culture has a really big incentive, just like Cody's culture, in making it unclear of just how much effort goes into any one thing. Can't let anyone see you sweat. Cool can be a wall that separates one from others and makes them think the world of you, and not really seeing you for you, you know? Not seeing you or your struggles. More focusing on how good you look and what you can do. Moving on to the net screen, we get to meet our first god, and they leave quite an impression. Good morning, cool kid. Welcome to Crescent High's annual Scholastic Book Fair. Whoa, totally forgot we were overdue for a book fair. Fair. Wow, they'll set in the same day as GRD.
Oh yes! Wild! Super weird! But total coincidence and nothing more! Is there anything here you'd like to purchase? Nah, I gotta head to class, I'm late for... The Howl Monitor looks like they're on the verge of tears. Well, we have a lot of neat books. I'm positive you'll find something you'll like. Well, I am allergic to words. Oopsie! The Howl Monitor is beginning to cry. We have plenty of picture books. Maybe you'll just take a peek? I really can't. The hall monitor is shaking and sobbing. They attempt to inconspicuously test their therapist from under the desk, but it's totally noticeable. They look embarrassed, attempting to choke back their tears. Business hasn't been going well, and the bills are piling up. They can't go empty-handed again. They just can't.
Okay, fine. Alright. I guess I can spare a few bucks.
Oh, thank you, cool kid.
I didn't pay too much attention to this while playing, but this god is a hall monitor. They're a celestial civic servant. They're a head with wings wrapped in a sash. And this is a major chance for the player to look with a critical eye at what godhood really is. Not every god gets to be amazing. In fact, this is more like a god of the mundane. At the time, I was kind of distracted by them being so cute, but being a cute cat that talks in furry puns is quite distracting, you know? And I guess that's a form of coolness obfuscating reality. Or rather, cuteness. But this god is low-key horror adorable. The Hall Monitor's life of wage slavery tells us not only that being a good god doesn't mean automatic prosperity, but also that just like how kids think of adults as amazing and all-worthy, cool kids don't see, or in some cases willfully ignore, the pain that embodies life after school is over. Though that's not necessarily their fault. This god is literally begging Cody to buy something. And it's kinda dark. There was an adult in our life when we were growing up who similarly didn't keep up the responsible and well-adjusted adult act that adults are meant to keep up for kids. The ones that put them on a pedestal in the first place. It kind of recontextualized my idea of adulthood at the time. And any other adults I told about it were visibly disgusted at the vulnerability that one adult showed. And I have to admit, I was as uncomfortable as Cody was about it when I saw it. But I too tried to accommodate the best I could. Not to say that this is the way an adult should act, but the pressure of not letting on what life is on that pedestal of adulthood, or rather, godhood in this case, is very relatable as something that's just too much to bear all the time. Hierarchies hurt everyone. It's lonely at the top. Or even the bottom of the top. The Hall Monitor running the book fair is sad for its own reasons outside of the shitty life it has too. School book fairs are more insidious than some probably realized as a kid. Though I too have much nostalgia for them. I was trying to see if there were any official connection to book fairs and standardized testing, but I couldn't find any. Though what I did find does to me at least make sense as to why they might line up. The GRD, or as I assume it stands for, the God Recruitment Diagnostic, much like the standardized tests of our world, has the expectation of informing the trajectory of one's life. It's this world's version of the SAT or ACT. But scholastic book fairs typically generate money for a school's library and are organized by that school's librarians, or even the school's PTA. Hall Monitor getting a cut seems kinda dystopian in that regard. Kinda like servers or Twitch streamers with tips. Hall Monitor may have likely organized it themselves, but was likely mandated to do so by the school. Gotta eat. The tests in the fair may line up because a parent who's gonna send their kid to school with money to buy these books may be inclined to do so because it's testing season and the association with books in school is a direct link. If my child reads more, then they'll do better in school. However, there's a bigger reason. and it's not for the benefit of the students. This is school-sponsored consumption, and much like in our world, parents would be inclined to send their kids to school with at least some money so the kid in question doesn't compare themselves and their family's ability to have disposable income to their peers. Can't let them see you sweat, right? An article I found mentions that book fairs are quite the ample time for a student to realize that their family is poor. And some parents see cutting corners on other expenses a worthy sacrifice to shielding their children from that fact just a little bit longer. I know my parents did. Cody snags this world's version of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which draws attention to his reluctance to accepting his natural empathy towards losers.
Cody takes the book. It's okay to read someone's diary if they're just some random loser, right? There's no more time to browse. It's time to check out the book fair and check into class. Cody drops his purchase and some money into the checkout desk. Here we go. Diary of a Shrimpy Kid. The hall monitor studies the book closely. Oh dear. A book about the life of a loser. Unfortunately, that's not what we're looking for in a cool kid. But I'll suppose the fact that it's a comic is desperately redeemable. You'll get a D-. Proceed to GRD. Wait, this was all a test? Ah, yes, one of many. But I can't keep this right. Good luck at GRD, cool kid.
It seems that society discourages there to be any sort of solidarity between cool kids and losers. I wonder why. Cody also finds the cardboard godhead his friend Juvie was posing with, which kind of looks like Luna from Sailor Moon. Form a contract. Cody is just in time not to miss the GRD and is greeted by another god. This time his teacher. Wait, his teacher's a god? Are teachers cool? I mean, I think they are, but I'm a nerd. Seeing two gods who feel very much unlike the gods the intro built them up as makes this world of gods seem not so sweet after all. I mean, you still have to have a job, and they can be quite mundane. There's no basketballs or Gucci gods around here. Even if you do get to live in Chill Haven, it doesn't seem like the dominance that the gods are supposed to have is evenly distributed. I guess there are dominant gods and submissive gods, huh? Miss Sugalo seems to be just as cute and just as stressed as Hall Monitor. Cody bursts into his classroom. I'm finally here. Cody. Aw, rats. You just missed my outline of Goo Recruitment Day. God Recruitment Day, sorry. We talked about GRD's history, purpose, and... Oh, no sweat. I already know what the dealio is. The coolest kid is picked to us in the godhood. I'm not sure you really know. I'm just kidding. I know the word dealio isn't really in anymore, but reviving worthless words is what slanderous arts is all about, right? A few students giggle. Oh, my boss! Settle down now, everyone. If I don't have you cats perfect by the time our boy and savior arrives, I'll be... Something crashes through the ceiling, swiftly knocking Miss Sugalo to the ground and shattering her into a million pieces. Good morning, cool kids of Class 2C. And hello, Miss Sugalo, my dearest, most favorite puppet. The class is silent. Everyone stares at Miss Sugalo's irreplaceable. Holy fuck. Sorry. I should probably be serious reading this, but it's really hard because the absurdism is so high. The class is silent. Everyone stares at Miss Sugalo's irreplaceable remains. Oh, oopsie doopsie. No worries.
I've got a shelf with a dozen more of her back in Chill Haven. Just repress that memory like you do everything else. Okay, class? The class nods slowly. Anyways, hello, it is I, your bored-in savior. What? This is the moment that all the red flags we've seen so far just burst into flames. Miss Sugo is dead. And killed by the principal, no less. The principal who doesn't seem to care in any way other than being annoyed. It's the student's reaction that really makes this moment stick, however. Children tend to bond with their teachers a great deal. I mean, growing up, you spend more time with them than you do with your parents sometimes. Even in high school, some kids on occasion actually call their teacher mom or dad, and it can be quite embarrassing to let that slip. Not that I would know. So all the kids being frozen in terror at Miss Sugo's lifeless remains is a trip, but it makes total sense. And it is, you know, death. And Great Board's ambivalence and offhanded mention on how replaceable she is really hurts. And the Great Board doesn't want to slow down for grief, so just repress that memory like you do everything else. Repression? This really is a dystopia. Do only the kids repress the painful memories? Only the cool kids? What about the non-god adults? Gosh, this is a lot of questions. This is actually not the first mention of repression in the game so far. But before, I thought it was just a joke akin to when someone says they're bipolar when they're upset. Hyperbole. You stayed up until 2:26 a.m. due to the GRD-related anxieties and have since initiated trauma repression software. Oh, right. Totally forgot. Repress that. But no. It's quite common to repress these bad thoughts intentionally. Either by your own accord, or from others. Is this a part of being cool? Do losers repress? I'd be interested if they don't. As the test commences, we see it's an oratory exam. And yet still, it's quite a doozy. Great Board is an asshole and grills the students one by one. Though we only get to see Cody's friends answer questions. But one by one, Great Board grills them on if they want to be a god bad enough, and how they think of the lower class. Which is more of a test of one's indoctrination, not simply if one is cool enough, as nebulous as that would be. But by that measure, seems like Cody's friends are failing. Can't have gods who question the system, it seems. Though I guess a oopsie-doopsie murder already had kind of illustrated that, huh? What's really apparent with Cody's friends is that neither Gamer Girl, Holden, or Juvie seem to want godhood very badly. Maybe not even half as badly as Cody himself. Gamer Girl doesn't want godhood and wants to stay on Earth. And who wants to rule over a domain anyway? I don't even like management simulators. I'd rather stay a cool kid, graduate from high school, and cope with the stress of college. Life by venturing out all those sorrows in violent video games. Holden doesn't really want to compromise his love of self-expression with what being cool enough to be a god seems to demand. But he's still open to it, and definitely happy that he might be given a chance. It's a bit embarrassing to express yourself in such a vulnerable way, but feels good to be honest. My sister and I bond over writing too. She's getting her creative degree this month actually. It's great getting to boring. Next question. And lastly, Juvie doesn't want to be seen as not caring at all, and so leans into her bully aesthetic for evasion. It's not very effective. Not that I care about being a flying asshole that lives in space, but if it came down to it, my first move would be give every loser a wedgie, they'll slingshot them out of Hella City and into the ocean. You realize I'm a guy, right? I see everything that happens in these halls, and I don't think I've seen you give a loser a wedgie once. Sounds like you're all bark and no bite. Well, who wanna bite a loser anyway? Gross. But Great Board keeps receipts. Her calling Juvie out for not abusing losers like she says she would says a lot about her character. She enjoys playing the bad girl, but doesn't actually want to hurt anyone, it seems. She lives for the hyperbole. Her exchange with Great Board actually tells us a lot about the class structure, and about how people feel about it.
Great Board sees Juvie's bluff as bad cool kid praxis, not because she wouldn't go through with it, but because there wouldn't be any losers to dominate over.
Let's say you do mean what you say. How would anyone know who's cool and who's lame if you shot every loser into the ocean? Easy. If I'm not drowning, I'm a cool kid. Funny stuff. It's cute how cool you think you are. Next.
Which exposes the truth of the system. It doesn't exist to elevate those who earn their wings, so to speak, but rather to denigrate the ones on the ground. It stinks of Hegel's master-slave dialectic, actually. Short version, there isn't an inherent difference between losers and everyone else, but rather, there seems to be a need for losers to exist for cool kids and gods to compare themselves to. How would you know who the losers are and who the cool kids are? You are only cool because someone isn't. In groups and out groups. This hierarchy, just like any caste system, wouldn't exist without the lower classes. And the middle class. I assume that the bulk of the labor is done by the losers, and cool kids and adults are allowed freedom and an amount of dominance over the losers. Cool kids are an idolized middle class. Both Juvie and Gamer Girl don't see a big need to be a god. They seem to have resisted the culture, but in reality, they've fallen into it just as much as Cody has.
Wow, I've never seen anyone more aloof and apathetic in a long time. We've got a real contender here.
They're just satisfied with their station. That's the only difference between them and Cody. If you aren't drowning, then you aren't at the bottom. This is how the upper class destroys solidarity. If no cool kids are willing to risk becoming losers, then losers and cool kids can't effectively push back against the gods. Great Board threatening Holden with demotion to loserdom at the slightest annoyance really calls attention to this fact. Hell, Great Board even calls the downstairs the dungeon. The top gods, or the more dominant ones I'm assuming, have to keep everyone else from relating to each other. Miss Segoy and Hall Monitor shows that even some gods are disposable, so there would be a lot of reason to dispel dissent. If there was only 2 classes, then it would be easy for the lower class to rise against the upper class. And that's why you need at least 3.
The name's Cody, cool kid. Nuh-uh, I haven't asked you a question yet. First question, what is your deepest regret in life? My deepest regret? Puberty, duh. Your body explodes, there's juice everywhere. No one wants to talk to you about it. Your voice cracks. A few classmates laugh at his well-timed, totally faked voice crack. But luckily, being this cool covers it all up. Wow, what a highly relatable answer. It's almost like you need everyone to empathize with you. Well, I don't know about that. Next question. How do you honestly feel about losers? Losers? I mean, they're okay. I kinda don't talk to them much. I'm way too focused on my own cool things, you know? So you don't care about half the people in any given domain. Nice. No, I just thought... Last question. Are you willing to sacrifice your life if you knew it would go down to you achieving godhood? I don't have to. I live an awesome life with awesome friends in my awesome city. I definitely live a cool life. So being a god means being one of the raddest beings in existence, then why give up all the things that make me cool? My life's perfect just the way it is. Ascension's just a cherry on top. Wow, your naivete is refreshing. Since you're so funny, I think I'll throw in a little extra to allow you to redeem yourself. It's time. Oh, for the show, stop around. What? That's right. Show me what you got, show me what you got. Show me what you got, show me what you got. Show me what you got, show me what you got. The lights dim. Better sure what you got. I can be myself, or I can do a kickflip. I just gotta do what G-Ma said, right? Just be myself. Cody takes a very long deep breath. That's it. Huh? Your look, your energy, your lung capacity. Oh, just screams God. What was your name? Cody. Cool Kid Cody. Great name, straightforward, honest branding. Love it. You gotta have to cut the stuttering, but otherwise I see a lot of potential in you. Ah, yay! I can't believe we got an actual guy candidate this year. And in the first class I searched, I can make my brother appointment after all. Sorry, my brother care appointment. Holden raises his hand to speak. Aren't there more cool kids to go through? Miss Sugoi said the GID was supposed to last all day, and you're only on. Nope. Cody here's the one. And if any disagreeing cool kid throws a fit, I'll throw you in the basement where you belong.
Cody's interview, however you go about it, likely ends up the same no matter your choices. And that doesn't weaken the game in my opinion. Because this is the inciting incident. The Great Board was looking for someone who not only wanted to be a god enough, but was also easy to manipulate, and didn't question the system very much. Great Board wanted someone naive, and she doesn't have to look into the other classes because this is not a merit-based system. She was just looking for someone, anyone who filled her criteria. Gamer Girl later calls out this red flag.
Congratulations. I can't imagine a better candidate. I mean, who else fantasizes about sending 24/7? What? I don't do that. You literally keep a drawing of yourself as a god under your pillow, remember? You showed me in the 10th grade. Oh, right. That. I guess it has been a while. Like, ever since I was a kid, I've been wanting to ascend. Never thought I'd actually get to, though. I mean, I showed up late and said all those wrong things. Why do I get to have this? I don't think becoming a god is really about effort. It feels more like a game of chance. Maybe you're just cool. As in the right kind of cool. What's that supposed to mean? It means this is destiny. Deserving godhood isn't part of an equation. So, just make the best of this. And don't forget us if you make it up to Chill Haven. Okay? You may have won something, but we're all losing a friend.
Great Board is basically an abusive talent scout looking to use Cody as the gods have used cool kids since probably whenever this system was first started. Come to think of it, if the gods rule all, why can't new gods choose their own domains? Do they have to stay in that domain for their entire lives? For all of eternity? Do they have a choice, or has fate already been decided? I won't say Great Board isn't cool, but they are a bully and certainly a villain. Her enticing Cody with godhood feels a lot like Kyubey enticing Madoka and Sayaka with being magical girls. It's hella sus. Before the Great Board leaves, another traumatic event occurs. I'll be back in the god's office around lunchtime, so talk to me then, Cool Kid Cody. In the meantime, everyone be cool and stay in school! Or not, I really don't care. Holden raises his hand again. And so you do want to go in the basement? No, I'm just wondering about what we should do with Miss Sugoi's remains. Oh, right. No worries. I'm a bit too busy to get her replacement from Chill Haven, so I'm just gonna fix up real quick. Stand back. Lasers blast from the Great Board's eyes and hit the mess of ceramic on the floor. Tubular. Mr. Sugoi raises from the dead. There.
God as new. Ta-ta, everybody. The great board politely exits the room through the great board-shaped hole in the ceiling. Did you know? Misugoi is highly disoriented. She's bumping into walls and mumbling to herself. It almost sounds like she's saying, let me take a 10-minute. Let me take a... let me take a 10-minute break before we resume our slanderous art studies. The class shrugs and talks amongst themselves. Greyboard almost didn't even do this. Miss Sugoi is replaceable and Greyboard doesn't seem to value life at all. But she could have done this at any time. We don't know if all gods have reviving powers or if only certain ones do. But it seems like a weird thing to forget. And it's kind of messed up that it only happens because Greyboard doesn't want to go to Chill Haven and then come back. I guess Miss Sugoi got lucky. Though her reaction to being revived is rather terrifying. Although she's doing her best, unlike How Monitor, to deal with it in a way that the kids won't notice as much. I laughed really hard streaming this because, quite frankly, it's funny as hell, but hella uncomfy. Black humor at its finest. What must it feel like to know that you're not only disposable, but that your life can be yo-yoed on a whim? I'd get into it, but I don't think this essay needs to be that much longer, and it might get really depressing if I do. It'll be longer than Tight Heights is tall. Cool Kid Cody's surrealist, horror, adorable black humor is really intense, and I high-key love it. But obviously, it's easy for me to point out all these red flags with my analysis, because when you have rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags. And within this world, it would probably be hard to criticize one's society when it's all you've known. Especially if you're used to that society treating you well. Cody, you son of a bitch! You've got some nerve busting in late, almost biffing the entire GRD interview and dressing like that. Huh? I dress like this every day. Well, you're gonna be dressed in a hospital gown once I'm through with you. Juvie raises a fist at which Cody responds with a high-pitched scream. Ah! You fall for that every time. If our guy saw you scream like that, she sure as heck wouldn't have picked you. So what gives? You're just jealous. Thought you didn't care about GRD. You know I don't. I'm just in shock that after years of holding out for godhood, it's finally on your doorstep. I guess she just thinks that I'm that cool. That's cause you're a skater boy. Talk about bias. I bet she'd give me less flack if she were some kind of flammable graffiti guy. That sounds stupid as heck. She's a skateboard cat guy with unstable, star-shaped wheels made redundant by the fact that she has wings. Privilege does that to you. So that does make me wonder about how the other kids have been brought up compared to Cody, because they seem a little bit more well-adjusted. Though as a kid, Cody is ripe for exploitation. He has his head in the clouds and he's a romantic. I know from experience that we're easy to exploit. Heck, he didn't even think he deserved the prestige of being a god candidate in the first place. So having critiques on the system is probably the furthest thing from his mind. Okay? You may have won something, but we're all losing a friend. Aw, Gigi. It's not like I'm dying or something. I guess it'll be tough visiting Hello City with all the God-related shenanigans I'll have to get up to, but like, who says we'll stop being friends? If I'm gonna be almighty God, I sure as heck am gonna have the power to hang out with you guys. Yeah, you're right. Things won't be different, just distant. Although this episode ends with Cody assuring his friends that once he's a god, he'll come down to see them every so often, I have a feeling that the gods from his school who ascended before him probably said the same things to their friends when they were still human. And I have a suspicion no one's seen him since.